Welcome to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.
Series 2, Episode 7, The Underbelly of AI. AI is advancing rapidly, but what about the darker side? In this episode, we're uncovering the underbelly of AI, exploring issues like voice cloning, data exploitation, and the risks that come with unchecked AI development. How can we protect ourselves and ensure ethical use of this powerful technology? Let's dig in.
Jay, we're nearly there. This is episode 7. Episode 7 of series 2. The Underbelly of AI. I don't know too much about this as a specific topic, but I do know that humans are fallible and that if there's an opportunity to take advantage, someone will. I also know that there's very often collusion with big tech companies, and money drives behaviours that are maybe sometimes less than desirable.
Yeah, well, I mean, you only need to look at OpenAI going from a not-for-profit to a profit, what would seemingly be overnight. And I know that Elon Musk wasn't happy about that for reasons that are probably unknown to most, apart from his close circle, most likely profits. But I understand that with the big tech companies. I mean, one of the things that I find nefarious, I suppose, with the use of AI is cloning people's voices. Sorry, I'm gone into lecture mode because I've just eaten some bacon and eggs. I got contacted by Mr. Beast on Instagram. It looked like his face, it had his name on the account and all that, and he contacted me from his separate account, from his private account. It was literally his voice. He did a voice note, used my name and everything, and I was like, really? Come on.
Yeah, so the OpenAI switching to a for-profit from a not-for-profit is interesting, and I feel has happened because of Microsoft's investment in OpenAI from the beginning. And they use it on being, they want to drive revenue from that investment. It's a slightly cynical look from me, and without knowing all of the details, because I'm not party to their board meetings, I can't tell you explicitly or certainly, but that's my instinct. With regards to the imagery and voices being used, I know you didn't say imagery, but I think it wraps into it. I think there's far bigger risks to us than from celebrities or people using celebrities. I think people using family members is a huge risk, especially the voice and video technology working together to say that maybe a child needs some money because they've lost their phone, for example. I think I think more people are going to get, what's the right word? I think there's potentially far more scams that could happen that way than because someone used Mr. Beast's voice. Does that make sense?
Well, you need a lot of data though, don't you, to train voices like that? How would you get a family member's voice? Because you might think that people have the voices online a lot, but they don't really.
We're being monitored and recorded everywhere we go, and our phones are listening devices. I don't buy into the conspiracy that they're listening necessarily to everything that we say and then acting upon it. But how does it know that you're saying, hey, Google, or hey, Alexa, or hey, Siri, unless it's listening to you? And then all it takes is a hack, right? One person to do something silly with some data, or one nefarious person to hack a system, and then they've got access to all of that.
I don't know, dude. It feels quite far-fetched. It feels like I can't personally. I don't see that happening because it's too locked down. There's too much security surrounding that. And how would you hone down on someone's child saying, "Oh, can I have a tenner, mum," or whatever? Do you know what I mean?
It wouldn't be, can I have a tenner? It would be the same as the WhatsApp scams that are already out there with people pretending to be your children, asking for a few £100 to replace their phone. It would be that level of scam. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a bigger risk to us than people using mimicking celebrities that would never reach out to people. Like, if it's a celebrity, people are just going to dismiss it like you did very, very quickly. If it's a family member, and we know deep fakes are becoming more and more of a thing, and it's harder to tell these apart digitally. We're looking at deep fakes of normal people rather than maybe deep fakes of celebrities, I think. And maybe not today or tomorrow, but it's coming, and I think we need to be prepared for it.
Okay, then, so let's talk about the open source nature of AI generators, particularly the visual ones. Is it possible that those could be used for nefarious purposes, image wise, and even like recipes or things like that, and recipes that aren't very wholesome, if you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, open source is a quandary. So we've got two options. We give it to everyone and people can't be trusted, or we keep it in the remit of governments and massive tech companies that can afford to develop this technology who can't be trusted. So where's the line there? And not saying you or I have a particular feeling of distrust for either of those entities. However, it's something that's talked about a lot, so I don't know what the line is. And yeah, of course, it could be used for nefarious purposes. And the protections have got to come from the companies that are allowing their AIs to be open source. So the protections have got to be within the algorithm, and then we're back to trusting big tech companies to make decisions for us, or governments. And obviously, we vote governments in democratic countries, and they should be trusted to make decisions for us. However, a lot of people don't trust them. I don't know how that resolves the situation. But yeah, like you said, of course they can be used for nefarious purposes, and there's got to be a way to put controls in place to try and stop that happening.
To be honest, I feel like it's just a case of management. How do we manage the AI models that have surfaced and being used out there? I mean, if we're going to talk about nefarious things, if we talk about the dark web, are they managing AI models that are on there? What kind of things are they generating? What kind of imagery and text and code is AI generating on the dark web?
The only way we can manage AI models is through understanding, learning, and knowledge. That means that we're going to have to be aware of the terms and conditions, what rights we're giving away, what requirements there are, what commercial rights we have, all of those kind of things. So education and encouraging people to understand what they're using, it is the only way I think that we can mitigate this in any way, shape or form. The comments about the dark web as well. I mean, for people using the dark web, they're probably fairly knowledgeable around what they're getting themselves into. That doesn't mean that the tools aren't being used nefariously. And for every positive and great outcome that you can have with AI, the equal and opposite is possible. We need to be aware of it. If you can, if you can cure a disease or an illness that is broken down by genome or DNA type, then you can create a disease or illness that does the same thing using the same tools. So there's definitely a lot to look out for on, or with regards to that as well.
This is it though, isn't it? We're not talking about that. We never see that on the news. All we see is, someone's generated a deep fake of Donald Trump running down a water slide in his underpants. We don't talk about the serious nefarious processes of people creating new computer viruses and stuff using AI, do we? Why is that?
If I knew the answer to that, I wouldn't be on a podcast called Voice Notes Suck. I'd be on BBC News at 6 o'clock. Jokes aside, though, I think things like this, things like Voice Notes Suck, platforms that encourage people to ask questions, that encourage conversation, that don't assume to know that they're correct. I think they're massively important when it comes down to creating places that encourage people to broaden their knowledge, to understand a little bit more about this new and revolutionary technology that we're using as humankind. So I'm grateful for you, Jay, for wanting to do this with me, and for wanting to be so open in how you put yourself across as well. I think this is a really important type of discussion, and I think the more people that are doing it, the better. And I'm glad I'm doing this with you.
Oh, dude, likewise. I'm glad I'm doing it with you too. I just hope this particular discussion brings a lot of questions to the table, and people have the knowledge to respond and answer the questions that we're asking, really, because I've not seen anything anywhere about the genuine dangers of AI. People talking about, oh, it's going to steal our jobs, it's going to steal my dad's job, and all that malarkey. But we don't, I mean, that's just speculative in a lot of regards. I know they're protesting in Hollywood, that's bad. I know there's all that stuff going on, but that's like top level, surface level, not really going to have a major impact on the world kind of level. When you talk about the underbelly, we don't see anything about that. And I want some answers on what it's being used for in that regard, and how safe are we from it.
So maybe we need to talk about, where would we start looking to get that information? Have you tried asking any of the AI tools you use about that, and what controls are in place and what best practices would be?
Well, I've got a feeling they wouldn't know, because they tightened up and locked down. I'm talking about these like AI models that are circumvented. There's just no restrictions, no boundaries, no rules really.
Okay, so let's say the AI engines that we're using don't know how to protect us as end users against that. Who would know how to protect us? And who would you ask the questions from? Would you have to go seeking industry experts within the AI industry, computer scientists, commentators, and other people, business leaders within the AI industry, to find that information out? Or where else would you go if you were seeking to build that knowledge?
Well, it's Tony Stark and Iron Man, isn't it?
That's not the universe we live in, though, is it? We can ask Robert Downey Jr. I'm not sure he'll know the answers, though.
Superman.
We need to find our own superheroes, or be our own superheroes. Maybe with AI we'll be able to. Who knows? I I don't know, just making me chuckle. Who can save us? People from alternative realities. That aside, and it is a difficult topic, the underbelly of AI. We're talking about nefarious things. We're talking about things that people don't want to consider, that isn't glamorous, and it goes far beyond medicine and data and deep fakes of family members. Like there's a lot that we're learning with AI, and we need to talk about the good and the not so good, or the bad. And it is the bad, and we should say it's the bad. It needs to be discussed, and I'm glad we're doing it. I've said I'm glad a few times in this episode, but I'm definitely glad that we're having this discussion, this tough discussion.
So I did actually consult ChatGPT about the dangers of unrestricted AI, and this is what it said. This is a summary, by the way. It gives me a massive list of 8 things, including things like malicious use and privacy violations, bias and discrimination, ethical violations, autonomous weaponry, erosion of trust, unintended consequences, and loss of human control. But the summary basically says the absence of restrictions or ethical guidelines would make such an AI extremely dangerous, potentially causing harm on both a societal and individual level. This is why developing AI responsibly, with robust safeguards, ethical considerations, and human oversight, is crucial. My question to that, though, dude, is who decides that? The general public aren't going to decide that, are they? and you just know there's some powerful organisations that could be using this for those things.
I mean, it's interesting to hear that. And if you use ChatGPT, then it's the OpenAI team that have decided that at different levels. If you're using whatever Google's one's called now, it's Google. If you're using Grok, it's Elon and his team. So the people that are making those ethical and moral decisions around AI are those mega companies. And of course they're going to tell you they're the people that should do it. Of course they are. Can you trust the general public? Probably not. It's why we've got to be playing with AI. It's why we've got to be involved in this, and we've got to be giving it genuine human interactions, not just social online interactions. It's super important. One of the most important things that we can do is give AI genuine human interactions to learn from. We're at, we've talked about the digital age and being at the beginning of a new era of humanity a few times, Jay, maybe even within this podcast. We're setting those ethical and moral agreements with AI now. They're going to last a long time into the future. It's really, really important that we're having an impact, and we're doing this on a base of all humanity and as many people are involved in this process as possibly can be involved.
The thing is, we need to have more conversations like this about it. We just need to keep talking about it. It just needs to get out there into the world for people to consider. People won't even consider potentially what we're talking about now, or that's maybe all they think that it's going to be used for, rather than the absolute amazing good that it could be used for. I never said used for twice, but they're used for. But you know what I mean? And no one likes talking about the underbelly. People don't like talking about it because it makes them feel uncomfortable, whereas I have no problem chatting about it. And it's so vital. It's vital that we have an awareness of the full range and spectrum of human existence, and remember that people sometimes are genuinely not very nice and make very bad choices, particularly adults.
Jay, love your passion. Love it in that message. And I'm grateful that there are people, and I keep saying this in this episode, but I'm grateful that there are people like you out there pushing that and being passionate about talking about the less desirable aspects of these things, or the undesirable aspects. Right? We'd love AI to not have any underbelly and for there never to be anything nefarious, but that's an ideal world that we do not live in. So informing people, creating the knowledge, encouraging people to ask questions and be informed, like we keep saying, is massively important. I need to listen back to find out what we've talked about and are there any other underbelly subjects that we should think about? I know one thing that we haven't discussed is AI being used for war purposes, and it will be. It undoubtedly will be if it isn't already. I know the British Army have tested a laser gun with a lot of AI tooling as part of that process and successfully tested it as well. So I know it's coming if it's not already happening, and it's something that should be spoken about and discussed.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. Using AI in weapons is pretty scary stuff. I think the other scary thing is you people using AI to develop like viruses and computer viruses and stuff, because it tells me that virus companies who counteract all these viruses are going to start having to implement AI into their software, especially now that we've got computers that are coming out now with integrated AI. It's all kicking off, Dave. It's all kicking off.
Yes, and the next steps for AI as well is integration with augmented reality, and you walking down the street with your augmented reality glasses on, deciding what's real and what's not real, and having some of that represented back at you from other people. So AI within that is going to be on a much more personable level, and there's going to be some risks, and some people are going to use that to manipulate and take advantage of people. There's a lot coming that we've never experienced as humans, and we're going to have to learn how to deal with it. And I choose to be excited about the whole picture. I really do. But it doesn't mean that I ignore some of the risks and less, as I say, undesirable, not less desirable, some of the undesirable aspects that are going to come alongside this. And they are going to come alongside it. Like, it's not like we get a choice in the matter. Some people are always going to take advantage of mechanisms like this, and we need to be as prepared as we possibly can to counteract that.
The question there is, what can we do to prepare?
Things like this, I think, are some of the biggest things that we can do to prepare. Have the conversation, open your thought pattern, talk about those undesirable aspects, the underbelly, the things that people don't want to talk about. Have those conversations. And as I say, like, you can't stop it because we're not making the technology. And I wouldn't want to be deciding these things for all of humanity. I'd want to be having an input on these decisions, which I feel I am by using the technology. So I think use the technology, listen to conversations like this, and there's plenty more out there like this as well. Listen and seek information from people that are genuinely knowledgeable and have worked for some of the big tech firms, and look into it. And that's about all we can do, I think. And be aware of the terms and conditions and what we're giving up when we use AI in terms of intellectual property, ideas, information, etc. I think that's all we can do. But if you're not willing to look into topics like this, if you're not willing to have these sort of discussions, then you're not doing everything you can to be prepared. That's my personal opinion.
That's a grey area though, isn't it? Who even reads terms and conditions? Who cares about IP? Generally, people don't. I mean, how many IP infringements are going on actually in the underbelly of society? I mean, look, go to an open market and buy a Nike bag for $5.99. How's that going to apply to AI? What's going to be happening if we've got that going on already and it's been going on for decades? How's that end up going to be perpetuated in AI in regards to things like that?
So from my perspective, we're talking about taking individual precautions rather than trying to stop things from happening as a broad spectrum across society. Look, I don't know much about high fashion, but I know that your Dolce and Gabbana or your Estee Lauder or whichever, I don't know the names of all the high fashion labels, but whichever one, you're going to be able to go and pick one up for 10% of the price, 5 minutes from Oxford Street in London. I don't know the areas in New York, but it'll be the same. It's the same for the watches, and things like that. We're never going to be able to stop that. So there's no point even going down that route. What we can do is look after ourselves as individuals and make sure that individually we're taking the precautions that we can. I think I've repeated myself there, but I think it's an important point to repeat.
That's my point, though. People aren't bothered about that, are they? They'd rather pay like a significant discount on something that's got nothing to do with the brand than pay full price for it.
I see. I was looking this from a intellectual property, individual propriety kind of basis. So I was looking at this from it's your creativity and your ideas that you're putting into ChatGPT, not the third party that would be purchasing said idea, etc. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, well, the underbelly used to be, we'll scrape your data, take your data, sell it on, use it for this and that. And AI language models in particular seem to be, and the image generators, almost seem to be trying to legitimize illegally scraping data, don't they?
That's a difficult one. That's a difficult one, whether they're trying to legitimize it or not, or whether they're trying to move with the times. Like, everyone shares everything. Well, not everything, but there's a lot shared online. People put their data out there. They're happy for people to see their opinions and their perspectives, We do a lot of cloud-based work where we work on the same thing at the same time. I mean, you and I are in the same document all the time, Jay. So I think humanity's kind of moving to communication on that type of level and on that type of platform, for good or for bad. I don't know if it's AI companies that have legitimized this, or social media companies, or the advent of smartphones. But I think, yeah, I think it's happening, and there's not a lot that we can do apart from trying to protect ourselves and do our own due diligence. You can't stop someone else sharing something. Can't stop a company taking your data if you use it unless you choose not to use that company, kind of thing.
Isn't that all about permission, though? Did we give these other companies permission to take it and use it for something else? Because that feels mildly nefarious.
Yeah, I kind of agree. But yes, we did. And that's why terms and conditions are important. Terms of service, whatever they're called. Yes.
You might be missing what I mean there. I don't mean you sign up for Facebook, things you post on Facebook belong to Facebook. I don't mean that. What I mean is, say you've got your own website, or even some art website or whatever, and you put your images on there, and then they go on to Google, and then they're taken from there. Do you think that's fair? Or do you think that's quite nefarious?
It's not fair and it is nefarious. And I think the only way an individual can potentially protect against that is with a watermark, by having their signature in the artwork. But Jay, we've gone over time. Well, kind of. We're at about 25 minutes. So I need to let you go away, figure out how you're going to summarize this episode, maybe with a little input from me, maybe not. And we'll be back shortly with episode 8 of series 2.
Cheers, dude. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode. Before we go, here are some things to take away. AI is advancing fast, and we must be aware of its potential misuse, like voice cloning and data exploitation. Education and open discussions about AI are crucial for public awareness and protection, so keep asking questions, be discerning. We all need to take individual precautions to safeguard our privacy and intellectual property. Be careful out there. And here's something to think about. Who do you think should be responsible for regulating the use of AI, and how can we ensure it's done fairly? Let us know by answering the question on Spotify. Make sure to subscribe, tell your friends about Voice Notes Suck, and you can find all our links in the description. Dave's been Dave. I've been Jay. See you next time on Voice Notes Suck. You've been listening to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.